All right, so it looks like we just had a couple more people join us, so we can go ahead and get started as close to 4 as possible. But I'm sorry if some of you were hearing me say this a few different times, but my name is Caitlin. I'm one of the admissions counselors here at Western New England. We're so excited to have you all here to hear from some of our current students and alumni about their experiences at Western New England. So we're going to get started, but before we do, I just wanted to say again that if you could all introduce yourself in that group chat, that would be great. Throughout the panel as well, if you have any questions outside of the questions that we already have, please feel free to put those in the group chat and I will definitely get those over to our student panelists. But we will go ahead and get started so that you can hear from all of our panelists. So if all of you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose Western New England, that would be great. So Kelly, you're up first if you want to go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and I chose Western New England for its smaller student body and population, just for like the smaller classes and for better connections with my professors.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. And Zoe, you can go ahead next.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I chose Western New England mostly because of all the opportunity that can kind of come out of it and how highly everybody around me, and I'm from local, but everybody around me always talked about how great the school was. So I kind of chose it because of word of mouth and how amazing everybody said it was.
Great. Thanks, Zoe. And we'll move on to Maggie if you want to go ahead next and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Maggie. I chose Western New England a little bit differently based off of other people. I was previously at a different college and their program for health sciences was just not as good as the one at Western New England. I want to go to PA school after this, so I knew that I needed to be somewhere that was going to set me up with the best classes to take beforehand, so that's why I ended up transferring to Western New England.
Awesome. Thank you, Maggie. And we'll move on. Oops. We'll move on to Cassie if you want to go ahead next and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's Cassie. I chose West New England because I came in as a sport management major and I knew this was the best school for that in my area, and because the school is so small you really get that family feeling from everybody, so that's why I wanted to come here.
Great, thank you, Cassie. And Sydney, we'll move on if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Sydney, and I chose WNE because it kind of just checked all the boxes. It was a small school that also had the sport that I wanted to play, and it had an excellent biology program, which is what I initially started with, and it was relatively easy to add a double major and a double minor, so yeah, it just worked out perfectly.
Perfect, thank you, Sydney. And we'll move on to Dan if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Dan. I chose Western New England because my brother attended there for 2 years before I came in. He really enjoyed the school, and so by word of mouth, I came in as well as I'm local. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. And Dan is one of our alumni, so we're so happy to have him here with us today to talk a little bit about his experience as well. But we will start with our first question. What was all of your transition like to Western New England when you started your first year? I know, Maggie, you transferred here to Western New England, so maybe talking about what your transition was like, in your first semester. So would anyone like to go first and get started? Yeah, Maggie, go ahead.
So like Caitlin said, my transition was not typically the normal one for a freshman, just because I did transfer in my sophomore year. I originally was going to commute, but then the day of move-in, I decided that I wanted to live on campus. It was a little bit stressful of a time, but the residence life was very, very nice, and they were able to hook me up with a roommate and a room literally that day. So I have nothing bad to say about that experience. I was a little stressed out at first just because I was scared about making friends and how I was going to be able to find involvement around campus, just because I was that new girl who was just kind of putting herself in there. For the first semester and for the first year, pretty much my only friend was my roommate. Which is why I can't stress enough to people how important it is to get involved in at least something, whether it's an on-campus job or a club or sport, because that was where I have met some of my friends. My second semester, I ended up interviewing to be a student ambassador, and that honestly has changed my life in so many different ways, all positive. I've met some of my great friends there, and I can't thank the admissions people enough for kind of giving me that opportunity. But it was definitely a little bit hard at first, but I would definitely say for any incoming freshmen, just, reach out to different people who are living in the same residence hall as you. For any commuters, we have commuter council, as well as a commuter meeting. So definitely go to that so you can meet other commuters in the area. But definitely just get involved to make your transition a lot easier.
Awesome. Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, Sydney, go ahead. And then Zoe, you can jump in right after.
So I play volleyball on campus. I'm on the varsity volleyball team, and so we come in a week early when we're freshmen, and we have our preseason prior to classes beginning. So jumping right into that automatically was kind of stressful because I had to meet 17 new people that, it's your team, so you just kind of have to adjust. It's kind of more on demand. So that part was really stressful, and then on top of that, you're trying to meet people of your age once classes do start. So like Maggie had said, it's very important to get involved on campus because that was something that I didn't do right away, and I struggled to sort of make those connections. But with time, it did, like those connections do kind of just happen as long as you're like putting yourself out there. So yeah, just to like sort of add on to what Maggie said, just put yourself out there.
I was a little different than Maggie and Sydney. Western New England wasn't really my top choice for a school, so I ended up going and being like, all right, now I got to make the best out of it. I wanted to go super far away, somewhere nice and warm, and I was like, my top school was at a beach, and I was like, wow, this would be great. And then I toured it, and I hated it. So I ended up going to Western New England, and I was like kind of like, it's too close to home. I don't want to be here. But like Sydney said, she plays volleyball. I also play volleyball, so I have to come in a week early. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is really fun. I like to meet new people. I got to see the campus before everybody else was already on. But then I was like, I need to just get involved right away. I was like, I want to do like 8 different things that I probably would never have done or been caught dead doing in high school. And I immediately applied for class council. And I didn't realize like how much I would really enjoy being a part of class council. Ended up being on e-board for it after the end of my freshman year. So that was really cool. But I just like got involved right off the rip and just kind of put everything onto my plate as much as I could, which ended up being really, really fun and really interesting. And it really helped like make me comfortable right away with meeting new people and talking to people and doing all different kinds of things. So.
Awesome. Thank you all. Yeah, Cassie, go ahead.
I came in through United Mutually Equals Connections mentoring program, so we also came in a week early, and I had a mentor, and that whole club became like my first group of friends. So the transition into school was pretty like smooth. So like you had people you could sit at lunch with, you could say hi to people as you're walking to class. So you have some people that you already know so that you don't feel as uncomfortable. And even not just with you and me, but there are other programs at the school that give you a mentor or like a PA or something that when you get to school, you're not completely alone. So there is somebody that you can talk to if you are feeling lost there in the beginning.
Excellent. Thank you, Cassie. And did anyone else want to add anything before we move to our next question? All right, perfect. So we'll move on to our next question. Before we do, I also know we have a couple more students who have just joined us. So at the bottom of your screen, there is a little chat bubble. We do have a group chat where you can introduce yourself, which would be great so we can all still meet each other in this virtual setting. And throughout the panel, if you have any questions for our panelists outside of the questions that we have, please feel free to add those in the chat, and I will absolutely get those over to our panelists so they can answer them for you. But on to our next question. What were you involved in within and outside of your major at Western New England? So for Dan, during your time here at Western New England, and for all of our current students, I know you've all talked a little bit about some of the clubs that you were in, but if you could touch a little bit more upon that, I think that would be great. Yeah, Cassie, go ahead.
So when I first got on campus, I immediately got a job as the women's basketball manager because I did come in as sport management. So that was like a great learning experience for me. And even after I changed my major to health sciences, because I was so close with the coach and the team, I was able to keep my job there and also do things related to my major. So I also started doing research with a couple of professors, and I've been doing it for 2 semesters now, and that's also a great experience to have in the field, since that is what I want to do once I graduate. So there's a lot of opportunities to do a bunch of different things on campus, regardless of if it's related to your major or not.
Awesome. Thank you. I know Zoe and Sydney, you both had your hands up. So Zoe, if you want to go first, and then Sydney, you can jump in.
I play volleyball on campus, so being able to play a varsity sport is actually really fun, and it was a great way to get to meet people. I'm also a member of class council. We get to put on events once a semester on a Friday night for people in our class, or just people in general at school. My class council has done, we've done like rollerblading, we've done laser tag, we've done like a giant Hungry Hippos. So it's super creative and they're wicked fun. And then I've also been a part of pre-pharmacy club, and I've also, which kind of preps you for pharmacy school and applying to pharmacy school, which was super helpful. And then I've also been a part of, or I've been an RA on campus, so I'm a resident advisor as well.
So as I mentioned before, I'm also on the volleyball team, which is a really nice way to get structured basically immediately when you come into class or come into school, because you just have to get that schedule perfect and time management. But besides volleyball, I got involved with the pre-medical club because I am interested in being a doctor after my undergraduate degree, and that just sort of helps you prep for the interviewing process and the application process of med school and maybe the things that you would be learning when you go. But besides that, I also got involved with Care Club, which is basically like a community service club. And one thing that I absolutely enjoy is we go to the old folks home that's in Springfield, and we do bingo with them and like projects, which is super fun. And that meant a lot to me that I got to do that, because that was something I felt very passionate about in high school. So like I got to carry it over to college. And I'm also a student ambassador on campus, so that's given me an outlet to meet lots of people and sort of be a leader in a new way. So that's super awesome. And I'm also a peer tutor, so that helps me like kind of absorb the information that I've already learned and help other people learn it too.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Yeah, Maggie, go ahead.
So I'm not really involved too much within my major. Next year I do plan on being an organic chemistry lab TA, so that should be interesting. But outside of my major, I am recently inducted into the Motorboard National Honor Society, and I also am a student ambassador on campus.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
So when I first arrived, I was recruited for the men's soccer team, which allowed me to really meet 30 other guys that I was on the team with, and allowed me to really make a lot of friends early on when we moved on campus a week early, just like Sydney and Zoe. And then inside my major, I decided to become a Gen Chem lab TA. So I did that for the 3 years. After freshman year, because you do have to take the course before you become a TA for it and do well in it. And so I also was a peer tutor, which allowed me to really help students that are struggling in classes that I enjoyed being in. And lastly, I was part of the chemistry club, which was a really fun experience. You do stuff like making candles or like etching glass chemically, and it was just amazing to be a part of.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. And Kelly, did you want to jump in and add anything?
Yeah, just like Cassie, I also was able to do a semester of research with the same professors. I worked with Professor Ford and Professor Holmes on just what did we do? We exposed a certain protist to just heavy metals and see what it did to their DNA, basically. And yeah, I wasn't as involved in campus as I wanted to be because I worked more, but through Western New England and like my classmates and the connections I made, I was able to get a job at Bay State Hospital as a medical scribe, which is great for me because I want to be a PA, or I'm thinking about being a PA. So those are just like some things that were helpful for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to our next question. So can you discuss a little bit of what it's like to balance your classwork and other activities that you have? So I know you all talked about the various different things that you're involved in, and which probably keeps all of you pretty busy. So I'm sure this is a good question for all of you. But what is it like balancing all of that? Or, what was that transition like balancing all of that at first? If you could talk a little bit about that. Yeah, Dan, go ahead if you want to. And then Cassie, if you had your hand up, you can jump in after.
So in all honesty, it can be very tough and overwhelming at first to try to find a balance between classes and activities. But one of the great things is if you have your friends, the roommates, they really can be a great help. Along with the faculty, can be amazing in helping you find that balance. And it's extremely and entirely doable. And once you get the mindset and the swing of things, you really start to enjoy the classes and the activities that you find yourself being a part of on campus and off campus.
I just wanted to add that it can be really hard to balance it all, but like for me, because of the nature of a couple of the jobs I have on campus, I can work on like homework and any projects that I have to get done at work. But for other things like my student ambassador job that I can't really do other work, or if I'm in a play, like this past semester I was in a play and that's 3 hours that you have to block off that you can't really work on anything else. So I would say like you really have to write down what it is you have to do, even though it sounds kind of overzealous, but it definitely helps in balancing out what it is you have to do, because like it gets really oversaturated with things that you have to get done and it gets a little overwhelming. So if you have it all written down and you know what you have to do, it'll be fine. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Sydney, you can go, and then Zoe and Maggie, if you want to jump in after.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Cassie. I think the easiest way is to sort of build a schedule. I always had a to-do list coming in as a freshman and put like the priority homework assignments on top, but also including the activities that I wanted to be involved in with my clubs and my sports. Obviously, sports is kind of more mandatory, so those kind of were at the top of the list, but homework is also, you sort of prioritize what you find. I think the easiest way to do it is just sort of build that schedule and also work in time for those days where you don't really feel like doing homework anymore. You kind of want to go hang out with some friends. So yeah, just trying to like figure out your rhythm of going to college and figuring out what classes and homework and everything. Like you'll really just find your flow after a while, and then you'll just like know the way that you need to do things.
I definitely agree. Like you'd be able to just hit this like groove once you start like 2 weeks into classes, and it feels so nice. Something that really helped me was I was able to like not calculate, but like see how many hours I was actually in class compared to high school, because it's actually a lot less than you realize. So being able to look at that and being like, oh, like I actually have a lot of time outside of class to sit and work on all of these things and do all of these things and then write it out and chunk it out. I have a color-coded calendar, and I probably couldn't live without it. It's one of the most helpful things ever, and it helps with checking those things off. So definitely similar to Cassie and Sid, that I really like to be able to see it and visualize it.
So kind of going off what everybody else said, you definitely do have to find that groove. Speaking off of my experience freshman year, not at Western New England, I was playing a D2 sport, and it was really hard for me to try and find that balance. I did rowing, and for anybody who doesn't know, rowing, you have to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning to go over to the river. So it was definitely very hard for me to try and find a balance between wanting to hang out with friends, doing schoolwork, and also the sport. So I had to eventually figure out that I really needed to quit rowing in order to focus more on my schooling. It also probably didn't help that I was taking a class that typically sophomores take my first semester freshman year. So jumping immediately into that was definitely a little bit of a challenge. So again, like stressing what everybody else has said, just make sure you spend time on homework. I kind of realized that any time that I was not in class, I really needed to be at the library and not napping or hanging out with friends. I was very bad at prioritizing my time, and I would pick hanging out with my friends because I wanted to keep those relationships with them over spending time studying for genetics. And as you'll learn, genetics is a very, very hard class. So you do need to spend a lot of time on your classes. And again, just trying to find, that healthy balance between, when homework is enough and then when you need to hang out with your friends and when maybe you can work a little bit more time on homework and spend a little bit more time studying for that organic chemistry exam rather than going to the mall.
Awesome. Thank you, Maggie. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to add before we move on to the next question? Okay, perfect. So we'll move on to our next one. So what are the courses like in the physical and biological sciences? Do you have a favorite course that you've taken? So I know you all are from a variety of different programs, but what have those classes been like that you've taken? What's been your favorite one from that? Yeah, Cassie, go ahead.
I enjoy the selection of electives for the health science major specifically. Like this past year, me and my roommate got a chance to take a protein misfolding diseases course, which is probably like the most interesting course I've ever taken, like in my entire academic life, which basically discusses like different proteins and how they interact with diseases that we don't understand, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer, and diabetes, etc. So we got to learn about the mechanisms that actually propel those diseases forward and what causes them and stuff like that. So it was hard. It was a lot of work, but it was super, super interesting as well. And I probably would have no other chance of taking that class had I not been part of this program either. So it was really, really cool that I got to take that.
Awesome. Yeah, Sydney, go ahead.
So kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, my favorite class was probably general chemistry too. And it wasn't because of the information, because chemistry is not exactly my favorite, but the professor really made it such an amazing class. Like Professor De Silva, he is incredible and he's very passionate, very funny. I just truly enjoyed getting up at 9 a.m. to go to his class, and he just made it very enjoyable, and he's very easy to talk to, and you can go to his office hours and never feel stressed about anything. So yeah, it was like coming in as a freshman, that was my second semester, but it was still nice to know that I had a professor that was very supportive of everything. And yeah, he's a great professor. So there's a lot of professors like that at WNE, and I'm sure there's other people on the panel that have had similar experiences.
Yeah, Maggie, go ahead.
So similar to Sydney, my favorite class was definitely chemistry too. And I had another really amazing professor. It was different than Sydney's. Dr. McKenka was my professor. He, I believe, is an adjunct. I don't know if he taught a class this past semester. But also Dr. Rennie is another amazing professor. I had him for chemistry lab, and that has honestly probably been one of my favorite classes, although the lab portion was a part of the chemistry grade as a whole. Another one of my favorite classes was physics. And those honestly were my two least favorite classes in high school that I took. I could not figure out chemistry for the life of me, but I somehow ended up pulling off an A my second semester, and that truly does show how important it is to like do research on your professors, but also just how many great professors Western New England does have. I definitely had a lot of fun in lab and also the class.
Yeah, Dan, if you want to go ahead, and then Zoe, you can jump in.
So I enjoyed every class I took within my major and my minors. There were definitely difficult ones at the time, and you really had to put in the effort for the grades, but my favorite nonetheless was microbiology. When I got to learn several molecular biology techniques that to this day I still am grateful that I learned, because I will use them in the future down my career path. A big part of that was from the professor, like everyone has said. The chemistry classes I really enjoyed too. Like Maggie said, Dr. Rennie, I TA'd for 3-4 semesters, and he was probably one of the best professors I've got to work alongside with along this whole process.
Maggie, go ahead, sorry. One of my favorite classes, which is like not a very common class, but I think it was more so the professor and the class itself that I loved, was Organic Chemistry 1. I had Professor Lee, and I just absolutely adored her. She made learning wicked fun, and the class itself had a lot of fun with it. She was comfortable with us, and we were comfortable with her, so we were able to kind of goof around a little bit with the different examples she used to teach us some of the processes. But it made it like way better, and it's one of probably my most memorable classes on campus. And then I feel weird talking about it, but one of my other favorite classes was with Professor Rosenman, who was on the call as well. But I was in his Anatomy 1 class, and it was really cool because he got to do the lecture outside of the classroom and then come in, and he was able to teach us like through visuals and different ways, the different processes that were happening in the body. So that was also something that really helped everything kind of stick and glue in my mind, and I really enjoyed.
Maggie, I know you had your hand up, so you can go ahead, and then Cassie.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot a thing. I wanted to.
That's
It's
okay.
the same thing that Zoe just talked about. But Professor Rosamond, I've had him this past semester for anatomy and physiology too. I took a different professor my first semester, and I cannot tell you how big of a difference he made in just how my understanding of the course went. I didn't do horrible, but I didn't do that great in my first semester, and having the ability to watch the lectures outside of class and then come in and have him talk about a topic that students really didn't understand or had a hard time understanding made my understanding go from like here to here. In addition, before every exam, we would take a group quiz, and then we would also take it individually, and he would combine those two grades. That helped me out so much because I felt like I was actually able to study for the exam way before I even took the exam, because I was taking that a class period beforehand. So that definitely really helped me to understand like a little bit more about what was going to be on the exam and what to expect on the exam. So he was definitely one of my favorite professors.
Awesome. Cassie, I think you had your hand up before too. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to speak on like how great the professors are in this program, because even courses that are super hard and nobody really wants to take, but they have to, like such as Orgo, I was not happy at all taking that class. But because I had such a great professor, Dr. McClintock, like literally I was excited to go to class every day because he was so great. So it just made it a lot easier to digest, even though the information I'll probably never understand it, but that wasn't his fault. Like he was so great in being accessible to students and explaining things and making things clear. And a lot of the professors are like that. Like they really try to make sure that the students understand and they do well.
Yeah, Kelly, go ahead, and then Sydney, you can jump in after.
Just like Dan, I really enjoyed all of my classes I've taken at Western New England, for biology especially. And I mean, it can be very overwhelming, just like the material you have to learn and memorize, but like it's all worth it in the end because you can actually apply the knowledge that you learned. My favorite course that I probably take, or one of them at least, was definitely this past semester I took cell biology, and it was so hard, but I really liked it, especially for the lab part, because I mean, as a bio major, funny enough, like I've never really been that great at lab, but after like so many semesters of taking lab and then going into cell biology, you used like everything you've learned in the past from like bio 1, bio 2, or in chem 1 and chem 2, and you got to like form your own labs by yourself, well, like with help with the professor obviously, but it was just like I like really bloomed in lab this past semester, so that was really nice.
So I just wanted to add that I think a great resource about finding out about like the different classes that you're going to have to take in your audit is asking your classmates. So luckily I've had classes with every single one of the people on this panel, and I could feel comfortable asking them about other classes that they've taken already that I necessarily haven't, and what professor they enjoyed or what they've heard about the other professors. So don't be afraid to ask your classmates, especially the older classmates, because they're more than willing to help you out in trying to figure out which class is going to be best for you and what it might look like in your future too.
Excellent. Thanks, Sydney. So we can move on to our next question. And while we move on to this one, I just wanted to mention again for any of our attendees, if you have other questions for our panelists that we haven't asked or that you don't see throughout the panel, please feel free to add them in the group chat, and I'm happy to send those over to our panelists and have them answer for you. But to move on to our next question, what did your internships or researches opportunities entail? Did anyone help you find these opportunities on campus? So I know a couple of you have talked about some research opportunities, so would anyone like to jump in and get started? Yeah, Cassie, if you want to go, and then Maggie, you can jump in.
Dr. Worm actually is the one who told me that this was an option as a substitute for a health science elective, and I liked it so much that I ended up doing it for 2 semesters. So the first semester was really handheld. We just learned how to extract DNA and create cDNA and stuff like that, and we were very guided by the professors. But the second semester, we kind of got to do our own thing and choose our own concentrations and basically take our experiments into our own hands. So it was a great experience to have, and now I'm a lot more familiar with lab technologies and stuff like that and different protocols and such.
So I ended up actually doing an internship, and it's not really your typical internship because it was shadowing. But just because it's not a standard internship where you get paid for it and you're actually doing something doesn't mean that you can't take a lot away from it. I did that this past semester. I'm trying to graduate a semester early, so I loaded this semester up with a ton of classes. But I ended up shadowing a physician assistant. Dr. Worm was my faculty advisor, so he was really, really great throughout the entire process. Unfortunately, because of this circumstance that we're all experiencing right now, I wasn't able to get all the hours for the actual internship because you do need to do 40 hours per credit, so I would have had to get 120 hours. I ended with 90, so for the remaining 30, I ended up doing a research on the history of being a PA. I did not know that there was so much history behind the physician assistant profession, and it definitely has helped me kind of learn a lot about what I potentially want to go into. Before this internship, I had my mindset on I was going to do pediatric surgery and I was just going to spend my entire life in a hospital, but I actually had shadowed a physician assistant in an emergency room, and then I also shadowed a physician assistant at a rheumatology and allergy clinic. And that really opened my eyes up to the fact that you can do stuff in a clinic and kind of have a 9-to-5 job per se as a physician assistant. And so now I think I might want to do something with either dermatology or maybe plastic surgery. So definitely this internship opportunity was an amazing thing for me. Nobody really helped me find these people. I have just met them through connections. One was through my dad and another one was through my mom. So, you kind of have to find those connections for yourself. The Career Development Center is a great place to go as well if you want to look into finding an internship because they have a lot of connections with different people and even your professors as well. So if you want to get involved in research, I know my organic chemistry professor has told us about how if we ever want to do some research, he would be more than willing to help us with it. We could look into creating our own lab for the class, and if we wanted to do something more in depth, go off of one of the labs that we had previously done, that he would be along to help us with that. So definitely, reaching out to your professors as well as Dr. Worm, he helped me a lot.
Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
So undergraduate research, like Cassie was saying, I did 2 semesters with 2 different professors, both of which were amazing and really allowed me to fine-tune my skills in the research opportunities that I had, as well as getting those close connections with them allowed them to write some amazing recommendation letters that helped me get into an internship where I stayed for 10 weeks out in Long Island and worked for the Department of Energy on more efficient biofuel production. So, but I was working 12, 13-hour days, and it was still amazing because I got to use the skills that I learned at WNE to help out with the mentor I had and along with the partner I had. So one of the biggest helps that really allowed me to get there also was the Career Development Center that we have on campus, who as I set an appointment, they helped me fine tune my resume to a point where I still use it today in the form that they helped me with. So the Career Development Center was a great help, and I thoroughly encourage people to go there too, with help that they need on their resume, as well as career opportunities and outlooks on that.
Awesome. Yeah, Zoe, go ahead.
I had initially come in as a pharmacy student, so a lot of times they talk to the students a lot about finding work opportunities within like a pharmacy technician position. So I was getting really stressed out about finding this kind of position, and then I ended up actually getting help from one of the pharmacy students that was in the college of, or like the graduate program. So she knew that I was local, and she had actually just finished an IPPE, which is they do weekly off-campus internships, and that pharmacist was looking for a pharmacy technician. So she was like, "Hey, you live locally, do you want a job?" And she was able to put me directly in contact with the pharmacist, and was able to kind of like bypass the whole hiring process. I was able to get a job, which if I had chosen to stay in pharmacy would have later turned into an internship, and I would have been able to develop and grow upon and stay within the company. But I ended up changing my major, so that was kind of no longer my career goal. But it was really a really cool opportunity.
Awesome, thank you. And we did get one question from one of our student attendees. So they were asking about organic chemistry, or Orgo, and how that was for all of you. Is there peer tutoring available, or what resources are available for that? So now I see a lot of hands. I know this is a tough class for a lot of people. So Maggie, if you want to start, and then whoever else wants to jump in after, feel free.
So yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it's an easy class, because it definitely is very difficult, and you definitely do have to donate a lot of time. Our professors set the class up for you really well to prepare you for the exams. I know I took the class with Dr. McClintock, and he gave us problem sets as well as homework quizzes, in addition to homework problems and readings from the book. Another great thing, you know, in addition to our peer tutoring that we do have on campus, which you can get through the Academic Success Center, we have sometimes they do it, other times they don't. But this past semester, we had a student information session. We called it SI, which basically the people will get their own classroom on Kodiak, which is the module that we use for all of our classes to get homework and more information on the class, posted by professors. But basically, every single Wednesday, or just whenever the SI student is able to run it, they will hold it in a certain classroom on campus, and everybody will be made aware of it. And you can go to that, and basically they can kind of teach you their tricks and tips on how they approach different problems, because it definitely shows you a different perspective from maybe what your professor might be telling you. You know, your professors have been doing this for so many years, so it's definitely nice to hear from somebody who just recently took the class, kind of showing, okay, count the molecule this way instead of counting it the way that your professor showed you, because it'll help you when you're on an exam or something like that. In addition, we also have drop-in tutoring, which you can go to and during the allotted time that is selected for your class, which will be made aware to you by your professor. And you can just ask them questions. You know, say you were struggling on a question that you got wrong on a quiz and you want to know it so that you're prepared for the exam. You can just drop on in and ask them any questions that you want. But mainly your professors are really the people that can help you a lot with different types of questions that you may have. I know that I was always in Dr. McClintock's office asking him questions. He was available to me whenever I needed him to be, whether it was over email. You know, he would, over this past semester, you know, do FaceTime calls with us or do the Fuse calls with us. So definitely contact your professor, I would say, before going to anyone else. If you're still struggling after your professor, then yes, go to other people. But I would say that your professor is definitely the best outlet for you. Your professors also are the ones that are going to be grading your things at the end of the day. So if they see that you're really, really trying in class, they're more likely to, you know, be more lenient on things when they're grading, if they know that you understand the topic, but you might have just necessarily messed up some small thing.
I think Dan probably hated me after I finished Organic 1. Dan was my chem tutor for Gen Chem my freshman year. I hate chemistry. I hate like doing problem sets. I just could not get myself to do it ever. And like I would just torture Dan with questions all day long, whether it be like he's just still like willing to help me with everything all the time, and I really used it. So I appreciate it a ton, but there's people that can really help you out no matter what, which is also really, really helpful. So definitely like use the connections that you have because maybe you'll find somebody like Dan. So it's great.
So I was kind of the opposite. I felt pretty comfortable in general chemistry because there's a lot of concepts, but there's also a lot of math, and I'm pretty comfortable with math. And then when you go to Orgo, there's not a lot of math, and it's a lot of concepts. So I didn't really know how to study for it, and I was kind of just like lost in all the information. But I did reach out to the Academic Success Center, and I did get a tutor, and it did help a lot. And she really showed me some tricks to really remember the different molecules and the different reactions that you're going to learn once you do take Orgo. So yeah, there's definitely resources on campus that will help a lot of what Maggie had mentioned prior to.
Awesome, thank you. Zoe, does your dog want to say something too? Did anyone else want to jump in and add anything? Yeah, Cassie, and then Dan and Kelly jump in right after.
Yeah, just some advice on like how to approach the class when you do get there, because everyone's gonna tell you it's rancid, and it is, because like it's the concepts itself are not that bad. Because myself, so speaking for myself, when I was sitting in class and listening to Dr. McClintock give his lectures, it all like kind of pretty much made sense to me. Like I felt like I was good, but then come like quizzes or exams and stuff, like you don't actually know what you don't know, so it becomes impossible to ask questions. So you just don't even know what you're supposed to be asking. So I would say, because this course is not at all, I feel, in the same realm as like A&P or any other course that you're going to take. So you really do have to spend like 2 or 3 times as more time on this course than you do any other class that you're going to take if you want to pass and like get a really good grade in it, especially if you plan on going to med school or something, because they're going to be looking at your grade for that class too. So definitely approach it with an open mind, don't be too down about it, but also be prepared to spend a lot of time on it so you can do well.
Yes, so OrgoChem it's one of the tougher courses, but one of the biggest resources, like everyone has been talking about, is your professors. Your professors are one of the biggest lifelines you can have within a course. They are amazing in helping you out, giving you resources for help, directing you to places that can help you, like tutors. Don't listen to Zoe. She was a great student. I really enjoyed tutoring her. I was happy to help. Tutors are there for you, and they're there to help you if you have questions. And you can find tutors for all different kinds of courses. So don't hesitate to talk to the professor. Don't hesitate to look into tutoring. We're all here to help you.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that everyone has said. Orgo is definitely not a class that you can skate by in. It's like some people, it clicks more easily than others, but like everyone's always gonna have questions. Like, don't believe anyone, everyone's struggling when they take it. Like it's not easy at all. But like Dan was saying, like the professors are really there to help you. I also took Carrie Lee for my first semester of organic chemistry, and I can tell you I was bugging her every day, like before and after class, and just always asking her questions. Like you just have to put in a lot of work in for it, but like obviously it'll be worth it in the end. Actually, I didn't finish Orgo at West New England. I had to drop the course, unfortunately, because of some other personal issues that were going on. But I can say that West New England, that like a little bit over half semester I took in organic chemistry, when I retook organic chemistry in the summer, I was already like way ahead of everyone else. Like everyone else was either repeating it or taking it for the first time, and I felt like organic chemistry 1 was a lot easier for me just because I took some of it at West New England. So the professors are there to help, and not only is it their job to help us, but they genuinely do want to help us, and they want to see everyone thrive. And like the same with all your classmates, like we all want to help each other, and like the key is just to be there for each other.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Maggie, go ahead.
Just one last thing quickly. No, Orgo 1, like it's the back of your hand. That's one thing that I can stress to you guys. I kind of, I'm not proud of this, but I definitely just crammed before the exams. You get a small note card. I wrote everything on that note card. I somehow made it through with a really good grade my first semester, but that really did not help me in the end because Orgo 2 is based off of Orgo 1. So I cannot stress enough to you guys incoming, just make sure you know Orgo 1 really, really well and you really study and you really do those problem sets that they give you and use all of your resources the first semester because everything in the second semester is based off of the first semester.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. So we had another question that came in. Celia would like to know, she is planning on going to med school after undergrad. Is that possible? I know that I think a couple of you did. I think Sydney, you mentioned, and then Kelly, you were mentioning looking at PA school. So if anyone could touch upon that, that would be great.
Yeah, so depending on what school you're looking at, most of them have the same requirements, but you can easily look this up on their website. But for the most part, the biology curriculum does follow what medical schools are looking for on your transcript. There's not really a pre-med program at WNE, but there are, like, you can just take a look at the classes of what you need to take and then just take them. For me, I decided to take the biology major and a health science major, as well as taking on a chemistry minor and a psychology minor, but that was more, the psychology minor was more for interest, and chemistry was just because I wanted to take biochem, because biochem is a part of the chemistry minor, and you also do need that for medical schools, for most medical schools. Yeah, so really just take a look at the different classes that you need, and just sort of like plan your schedule around that sort of a thing. It's definitely possible, and you can do anything you set your mind to. So.
Yeah, Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sydney. I had been looking into PA schools for a very long time. I just graduated, so it's all about timing, really. You just have to like be proactive in what you think you want to do and like ask questions, as many questions you can to the right people. Like the Career Development Center is definitely a great resource to look at, and they can like just looking on the different schools' websites to make sure you hit all of those points that they want you to do. And like if you need to shadow, make sure to get those hours in like over the summer or something. Like it's possible, definitely, but most of the time people do take a gap year, I'm pretty sure. Like if I go to PA school, I'm not in a PA program right now, but if I was, I'm probably gonna wait like 2 or 3 years just to like be able to get those direct care hours and make sure that I have everything in order before I actually attend.
Awesome. Yeah, Maggie, go ahead.
So yeah, it definitely is possible, like everybody else is saying. I was a little scared after my freshman year trying to figure out how I was going to get all these hours in time. If you're thinking about going to med school or PA school and they have those requirement hours, I mean, you guys are old enough now. I would definitely recommend maybe this summer looking into a potential either getting your EMT, your CNA. Medical scribe is another great way to get some hours in. I know a few of you guys else are, or a few of you are also medical scribes. When applying to PA schools, they tend to look for EMT, CNA, ED Tech, which you can get through EMT, just because those are going to be weighted more than a medical scribe would be. So yeah, I would definitely recommend getting in something that's going to get you some direct patient care. Shadowing doesn't hurt either. I know a lot of schools do require shadowing. So yeah, so if you just start now, it's definitely gonna help you in the long run. I wish I started my senior year. I know it's difficult because you all have, you know, senioritis and you're definitely not wanting to get involved into something else that's gonna require you to study and all of that. But at the end of the day, we are picking a major, or you guys are picking a major, and you're choosing to go into something that, you know, you're gonna be studying for the rest of your life. So you might as well just keep going. But yeah, I definitely recommend starting young just because it will help you out in the end to get all those hours, because like Kelly, I am going to have to take a year off to get all those patient contact hours in.
Awesome. Thank you all. And yeah, Sydney, if you want to add something.
So the medical schools that I'm looking at the moment, I haven't found anything about different hours that I need. I know that it definitely helps. I was looking at an EMT certification and things like that because patient care is important. But I lost my train of thought. But definitely just be proactive in trying to find like what schools you might want to look at or what they're looking for, because every school is kind of different as far as like what they need. So
Perfect. Yeah, Kelly, go ahead.
I would also say that just getting an internship or just some exposure at all to like the medical field is really great. Like I didn't get my job as a medical scribe until the end of my junior year, which was last year. And since then I've like come to realize just by like being in such close contact with physicians and PAs or like NPs and just like RNs in general that like maybe medicine isn't exactly what I'm interested in. And just the fact that I think that because of an internship or a job that I'm taking is useful as well. It's just as useful as knowing that like I want to do this, that you don't want to do it, because like why would you want to dedicate so many years of your life to doing something that you think you want to do and not actually wanting to do it after you get some experience? So that's definitely just as helpful.
Perfect. Thank you. So I want to skip to our next question just in the essence of time. So Dan, being our alumni here, and I think Kelly also, you know, graduating this spring, can, you know, maybe Dan, you talk a little bit about what your transition was like out of Western New England into either the workforce or looking at postgraduate opportunities, and, you know, Kelly, what, you know, you're looking at opportunities after graduation.
So I finished off my degree in December, graduating a semester early, which was extremely advantageous in my opinion towards getting out there, getting an early start essentially. So a lot of jobs, they're essentially looking for that when undergrads finish off in the spring, they're going to have that huge surge of people coming out. And so when I finished off in December in the winter, I found it I was very grateful because I got into looking into jobs and into the workforce a lot earlier than most, along with looking into graduate opportunities and getting my master's, and then eventually I'd like to get my PhD as well. So that also allowed me to apply to schools faster and get the decision faster, which was great. Transitioning into the workforce, like Kelly, I work as a medical scribe, so I really I wanted to see that medical field perspective, to see if I really wanted to go into a PA. I thoroughly enjoy it, but I am choosing to go down the research path and the molecular research, as I chose to attend Quinnipiac in fall of 2020 for molecular and cell to further my research career path. So
I'm not gonna lie, it's actually very, very stressful. Trying to transition out of Western New England and more into the workforce or just into more like post-grad plans. Originally, I wasn't planning on going to grad school right away, just to be able to work and pay off some of my loans and get more direct care hours. But it's actually really hard to get a job right after college. So, and especially with this pandemic and the timing of everything, I decided to go back to school. So I am going to Elms College in Chicopee for their biomedical master's program. And I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of Western New England, because I mean, like Professor Roseman, for example, like he wrote one of my recommendation letters and like I got in. So obviously it was amazing. And I don't know, just I'm just working towards the next step basically. So just like Dan, I'm going to go to grad school, and I'm thinking about doing more research just to get more experience with that, because you can really do anything with your major. That's like the nice thing about being a bio major. Like you can go medicine, or you can do environmental, or you can do just research and development. Like it's like the sky is limitless.
Awesome. Thank you both, and congratulations on both of those opportunities that you're both starting. That's exciting. I want to skip to bringing up our faculty just in the essence of time, so they have a few minutes to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the programs and about themselves. So I'm going to turn off my camera now so both of you can jump up here and introduce yourselves.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Wurm. I'm the chair of the science department. Welcome to the panel. And I've been at Western New England since, fall of 2005. And I came here because I really wanted to be at a smaller place where I had a chance to teach a lot of courses and where teaching is really valued. I like my research and so on, but I really, I like being in the classroom and I like teaching. And so this was one of the great things about Western New England that I've really appreciated. And I'm still here and I still like being here. Now I have a lot of administrative stuff to do too as department chair, but I still get into the classroom every semester too.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bert Roseman. I am a professor in biology here, as you heard a little. Oh, there goes the lights. Hold on one second. Okay. I am a biology professor here. I've been here since 2009. And just like Professor Wurm, I really wanted to go to a place after graduate school that focused on teaching and made teaching a priority for undergrads especially. And Western New England definitely hasn't disappointed me in any of that. I do prefer the teaching to the research as well, and you get to teach a lot of great classes here. So for instance, I teach general bio, I teach anatomy and physiology, I teach the evolution course, sometimes I'll teach some sort of elective for the health sciences major, I teach the first year seminar course that all incoming freshmen have to take. So yeah, I think that's about it for right now.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. And was there anything that either of you wanted to share about the programs after hearing some of the questions that we had for our panelists and some of the questions that we had come in? Was there anything else that both of you wanted to share?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all the students that were on the panel and done really an excellent job of describing, life in the science department. Sometimes it gets very busy and it's a struggle to juggle everything. But as you hopefully also heard, the key to this is really to seek help, to be organized, but also to reach out to students, to reach out to faculty. We are really here to help you. So never feel afraid of coming up and saying, I really don't understand this. I need some help. What can I do? We're happy to meet with you. We're happy to explain it. We're happy, sometimes you might want to talk to your peers. They are there to help you too. So my recommendation is, if you have a question, I'm sure there are lots of other students that have the same question. Speak up, reach out. We are here to help.
Yeah, I mean, I would piggyback on what Professor Wurm said as well, that, we are here to answer your questions and to help. I can understand, and I remember as an undergraduate that maybe it'll seem a little intimidating to go into a professor's office, but trust me, we're all very nice and we want to help you. As I tell a lot of my students in the beginning of a class, if you had known all the material already, you wouldn't need to take the class. So I don't expect you to know it. And some of this stuff is hard and some of it isn't. But definitely, use all of the facilities that are available to you. And I was just thinking, while the other students were talking earlier, I can think of three things that I would suggest as an incoming freshman. And the first would be time management. The second would be time management. And the third would be time management. That's probably the hardest thing for people to get a handle on when they do come in from, especially from high school, where you are told where to go and when, and you're very much, your professors, or excuse me, your teachers will tell you exactly what's due and when. It's not like we don't do that, but you are much more independent in college, and you're also not in school for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. You may even have one day where you only have one class or two classes, and you'll be done by noon. And even though it's extremely tempting to go back and hang out in your dorm or go take a nap or go do laundry, you have to be able to figure out what you, how to organize all that so you're able to get everything done. I just have two other quick things to say, and this sort of repeats what other people have been saying as well. Definitely get involved when you first come into school, because it's a great way both socially to meet other people, but also if you are getting into different sorts of activities and that kind of stuff, it may actually help you on a professional level if you know what you want to do post-graduation. The very last thing I want to say is that I am the pre-med advisor here at Western New England, and that's sort of an older name. It would include things like pre-health related fields or dentistry or anything sort of related to that. And my advice there would be to absolutely, if you know what you want to do or think you know what you want to do, hit the ground running when you come in. There are so many classes to take, and it's such an intensive sort of thing that you can't sort of be, oh, I'm a second semester junior, maybe I'll do med school and then expect to get it done in 3 semesters. That's just not going to happen. It's just not realistic. But if you come in and you realize, yes, I need X, Y, and Z, and then you plan ahead for it, then that's terrific, and you should be well on your way. So, and yes, people do get into med school, both allopatric MD med schools as well as osteopathic DM schools, or DO schools. So we have had success for people getting into med school as well as all different sorts of health-related fields. So.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. So I want to move on to our last question for our student panelists. If each of you could share just a quick advice, maybe one or, a couple words of what your advice would be to incoming students. So I'll just kind of call on each of you. So Cassie, if you want to go ahead and get us started.
Sure. I think my advice sounds really basic and cliche, but honestly, when you come in, just try your hardest to be yourself. Like, people try to do like a lot of rebranding and try to like find their identity in college. While that's important, you still don't want to stray too far away from who you actually are, just in an attempt to like find more pockets of people that you can fit into. Like you'll fit into the pocket of people that you should be fitting into because you're you, and you shouldn't have to change yourself for any reason. So I would say just be yourself, try your hardest to be comfortable, and get as involved as possible as well, like everybody else has been saying, but that's super, super important.
Excellent. Thank you, Cassie. And Dan, did you want to go ahead next?
Yeah, my advice for some incoming students would be really put your best effort forward. I didn't my first semester, and I really paid for it, but as I got to graduate early because I really put that effort in and I really took those classes seriously. So don't do what I did first semester, really put that effort in and get those good grades. So you hit the ground running, like Professor Roseman said.
Excellent, thank you. And Kelly, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I would say for my piece of advice is to know that, like, just try to be more flexible, because I feel like a lot of people come into college and they're like, I know exactly what I want to do and I'm going to do that and only that for the rest of my entire life, and that's it. Whereas like me, I came to college, I had no clue what I was doing at all, and I was undeclared for a while, and then I changed my major a million times, and then I finally settled on biology just because I took the time to really like think about what I wanted to do and what I was actually interested in. So maybe chemistry is not your thing, but like biology is, or health sciences, or pre-pharm, or it doesn't really matter, but just make sure that you take the time to really understand what you want from the program or from our school.
Awesome, thank you. And Sydney, did you want to go ahead next?
Yeah, so kind of what we spoke on a little bit earlier is really just find that balance, because when I first came into school, I focused a lot on my academics, which obviously paid off because, I mean, how could it not? But my social life and everything around that sort of took the toll, and I didn't really get involved too early, and I didn't make too many friends very early on. So make sure that you're obviously taking the time to really focus on your schoolwork, but also really build in that time to make those connections. And you could even go to the library and study together or something like that. So just be very proactive with like a positive life at WNE.
Awesome, thank you. And Zoe, if you want to go next, and then Maggie, last but not least, you can wrap it up for us.
I think one of the most important things, and I had a hard time with this too, was just everybody else is in the same boat as you when you're an incoming student. Like, nobody else has experienced college before. Like, nobody else knows what's going on. So, like, it's okay. Like, you're not weird if you, like, look at the person next to you and introduce yourself. Like, they probably want you to because, like, they don't know how to ask. So, like, it's okay to, like, sit and ask somebody, like, what their name is, what their major is, what they're doing, and, like, ask those questions to the professor and, like, just be comfortable maybe being outside the box, if that makes sense. Like, something that you maybe aren't used to doing, like, it's okay to do, like, say hi, how are you, and to your classmate.
So similar to what everybody else has been saying, I was always that person that didn't want to say something because I was scared that people might judge me or think weirdly on me. But that's the complete opposite. And definitely being a tour guide has kind of given me that light. I was always embarrassed to go on tours with my mom and have her ask a million questions and be that, you know, mom, that stereotypical mom on the tour who asks a million questions. But really, like, ask your questions, get involved, meet new people. We're all in the same boat as you. So if I could definitely do my freshman year over again, that's definitely one thing that I would do. Spend a lot more time in the library. If you're thinking like you're not seeing the library too often, definitely see it more. The library will be your best friend. Just spend a lot of time studying after your classes. If you don't want to go back to, or if you do think you want to go back to your room, maybe go to the library for an hour after all of your classes and just sit there, kind of review the material. If there's a worksheet that they posted, do that, because that'll help you out in the long run. You want to make sure that you study as much as you can. And yes, you're going to college to meet new people, to have a fun time, but at the same time, you also are going there because you plan a future for yourself. So definitely don't let, you know, hanging out with friends put you back from your future.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for sharing, you know, everything that you did today. Before we wrap things up, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you, all of our panelists and our faculty members for joining us today. We really, really appreciate you taking the time, and I know all of our attendees too also really appreciate just hearing all of your experiences. So thank you so much. And we also always give away a t-shirt at the end of all of these panels. So Kayla is our t-shirt winner today, so congratulations, Kayla. We're giving you a virtual round of applause from over here, so congratulations on that. We will contact you about sending that to you. And last but not least, before we wrap up, for any of our students who are accepted students who are still thinking about making that commitment to Western New England, you do have until June 1st to make your commitment. So we have moved our deposit deadline. You can submit your application through your applicant status page. So you can submit your admissions response form as well as your deposit through that. We do have a lot of students who are already getting access to many different things at Western New England that have decided to commit to Western New England. So they're already working with their orientation group leaders to connect with you know, other students. We have student interest groups that they're all joining to connect with other future Golden Bears. We have lots of events and lots of information that will be coming out throughout the summer through Kodiak, which is our online classroom system. So lots of information for all of you to get access to early, you know, your housing application, finding roommates, and meeting other students that are starting this fall as well. So if you have any questions about that, definitely feel free to contact your admissions counselor or us in the admissions office. We can put our information in the group chat so everyone can see that and has our email and phone number if you have any questions. But thank you everyone so much. Congratulations, Kayla, for winning our t-shirt today. And thank you to all of our panelists. We really appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a great night. And thank you all.